guys, it's Phil coming back at you with another video. Today, I'm back. I'm excited. I'm pumped up. Hopefully, everyone's doing well, not letting one thought, one situation, one person take them outside of what they know to be true. You're building yourselves up. You're telling yourself all the things that you've been doing right, letting go of the things that you're not feeling like you're living up to, building yourself up, not letting anything that has been in your past or anything that you want to do in your future prevent you from being who you want to be with and for this situation. And I know 31 people did just that, because that's how many people went in the exam, kicked it directly in the chest to get the job done since my last video, and they are as follows: Shoni J, Mallory B, Tiffany D, Christina L, Natasha P, Catherine P, Kristen V.O, Asha C, Jennifer S, Christine W, Anna H, LCM, Lashonda T, Demetra C, Caitlin B, Cynthia N, Victoria B, CM, Diana W, Chelsea B, Eric A, Bria T, Julia L, Dana R, Allie C, Hillary P, LC, Jocelyn H, Ashawana B, and Carolyn C. And I'm so excited, man, because so many people on that list were doubting themselves. They're beating themselves up. They were letting other people influence who they are. They weren't even sure if they should go into the exam. They were talking about rescheduling. They're beating themselves down, not letting anything inside of themselves be worth anything. So that's what I'm saying, is this video is to help you feel, 1, excited to go into the exam, 2, let go of all that self-doubt, and 3, help yourself to get to the next level, to go into the exam, to kick a directly in the chest to get the job done. And if you've passed your exam and you want to let me know as well, the easiest way to do that is to send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. If you want to rep and rock with me as well, the easiest way to do that is to join the Sunday study groups. My study groups are Sunday from 7 p.m. until whenever they kick us out, Eastern time, every single Sunday, and they go over content areas as well as practice questions, not to have you memorize, not to have you jump to conclusions, but to have you be able to recognize and apply as it could be on the exam, to allow for you to no longer just go into the exam, feel immobilized, and to build yourself up, to go into the exam, to kick a directly in the chest to get the job done. So the next paid Sunday study groups are as follows. 814, DSM-5 adults, so we're going to be going over the personality disorders, the schizophrenia spectrum, the differences between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 disorders. We'll be going over the medications as well as practice questions related to those. 821 is the next one after that, and we'll be going over the stages of treatment and diversity, so different diversity considerations. And is it relevant to the question? Is it irrelevant to the question? Or what are some things that you could particularly see as it relates to the exam, as well as going over practice questions related to that. The next one after that is 828, so going over substance use, intoxication, as well as withdrawal symptoms, as well as what is a substance use disorder. In addition to that, going over practice questions related to those. And then on 9-4, the last one that I have planned, and then I'll plan the next one after that, is the acronym and practice questions. So going over the acronym that I recommend people to utilize on application questions: safety, feelings, assess, refer, educate, advocate, facilitate, and intervene, as well as the different considerations and the 6-step process that I recommend every single person utilize on every single question to go into the exam, not assume, not jump to conclusions, not go with the buzzwords. You're not a bee. You're not trying to get stung. You're not a cat. So don't jump like a cat that got squirted with water into action. And then going over practice questions related to those. And the biggest thing that you want to keep in mind if you're coming to any of the sessions or just coming to the 9-4 session is, if you're coming into the session expecting to get every single question correct, you want to have a realistic expectation that the questions that I write tend to be more difficult than the ones on the actual exam, because a lot of times people will come into the sessions, expect to get them all correct, or they get confused, they get angry, they're beating down on themselves, they're like frustrated with themselves and wanting to reschedule the exam. But the purpose of why my questions are more difficult than the actual exam and the questions that other programs provide is, 1, I want you to feel pumped up and excited and motivated to go through a difficult situation inside of the exam, because the exam is not going to be as difficult if you're practicing with things that are difficult. In addition to that, I want you to go through a difficult situation outside of the exam versus going in the exam, not being able to break down the questions and having to break down yourself. So if you want to come to any of the Sunday study groups, the easiest way to do that is to send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, or clicking the link down below in the description, which is the view more under the title, and registering for the sessions. If you're not able to attend the sessions live or not able to attend the sessions all the way through, all the sessions are recorded, so as long as you register, you'll be sent the materials as well as the recording Monday morning after the session. And if you're wanting to get previously recorded study groups that are not based on these topics but other topics that I've done in the past, you can also send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, as well as I still offer individual tutoring. So if you're not really sure what you're doing wrong as you're breaking down questions, or you're finding different topics to be difficult for you, it's easy for me to identify what's going on if I see what you're doing within that situation. So if you want to schedule an individual tutoring session with me, that's 100% possible. You can send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, or click the link down below in the description. Hit the view more under the title, and it allows for you to access my calendar. And I appreciate every single person that reps and rocks in with me in the Sunday study groups, as well as the individual tutoring sessions, as well as I'm bringing the one-day course back. And it's not going to be in August because a lot of things are going on personally, but a lot of things that I'm juggling professionally as well. But the next one-day course is going to be on 9/10, September 10th, from 11 a.m. Eastern time until they kick us out. And I typically say that it's going to be 12 hours, but some of them are 13, 14, 15 hours, depending on how long the session is. And at the end of each session, there's a question and answer segment. So if you've been in a one-day course before, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because they go as long as they possibly can. The one-day course is the most successful thing that I've been able to do. One, because it allows for you to get the most contact with me. But in addition to that, it allows for you to get a mixture of different topics that people find tricky, or they get them mixed up. In addition to that, going over the acronym, as well as the 6-step process that I recommend every single person to utilize as they're breaking down the questions, as well as going through 25 difficult practice questions. And as I said, within the 9-4 session, if you come into the session expecting to get every single question right, have a realistic expectation that the purpose of these questions are, one, to make sure that if you're going through a difficult situation outside of the exam, that it's going to be more comfortable for you to go through a difficult situation inside of the exam. But a lot of times I get a ton of emails where people are like, man, Phil, I hated you. Your questions were so tough. But when I went into the exam, I was kicked back and like I was at home, like I was in the best position that I could possibly be in, because the questions that were inside of the exam were nowhere near as difficult as the ones that you had provided. As well as, if you're looking for support or trying to build yourself up, these study groups, as well as the one-day course, as well as individual tutoring sessions, are ways for you to be able to do that. And if you're not able to stay for the entire one-day course, or if you're not able to come to the one-day course at all, as long as you register for the session, it'll send you the recording as well as the materials after the session to review at your own leisure. But if your exam is prior to the 9/10, it is 100% possible to obtain a previously recorded one-day course that I've done in the past. And the easiest way to be able to do that is send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, or click the link down below in the description. It'll take you to the calendar. You'll be able to register for the live one-day course. And I appreciate every single person that reps and rocks with me, because it's amazing to see how many people go from down on themselves, beating themselves up, to now a position of them being able to go into the exam, kick it directly in the chest to get the job done, and they get a life sentence of living the life that they want to see with and for their situation. As well as, for those that do not know, Audibles continue to partner me on my YouTube videos as well as my podcast. So if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at www.audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. It allows for you to get a free book. I appreciate every single person that does that, because it's the easiest way to support me, and it costs you absolutely nothing. And again, if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at www.audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial, or click the link down below in the description that has the Audible affiliate link. I appreciate every single person that does that. And if you're like, Phil, I always hear you talking about Audible. What is Audible? Audible is an easy way to get information on the go. So if you're busy just like me, or you're an auditory learner and that's how you obtain information anyway, Audible books are going to allow for you to be able to be on the go, but still listen to information to become the best possible version of yourself. So if you want to support me as well as support them, go to my Audible affiliate link at www.audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. Sign up for the 30-day free trial, and I appreciate every single one of you guys that have done that already. And if you want to sign up, but you're not sure what book that you should get, there are a couple that I would recommend, and they are as follows: The Alchemist, The Archer, Traumatized, and Outliers. Each of them have pieces of information that can not just help you progress professionally, but personally, to become the best possible version of yourself. As well as, if you have not already, hit the like button down below. It's the thumbs up button down below. I appreciate every single person that does that, because it allows for amazing social workers just like you to find my videos as well. And if you could do me a favor, comment something positive down below, because like I said, I'm going through a lot personally as well as professionally, and I read every single comment. So all your guys' positivity, all your guys' kind words mean more than you could ever know, because it's wild how big the Fill in the Gaps community has gotten. So if you could do me a favor, hit a comment down below, and I'll read every single one of them, and I appreciate every single one of you that have done that. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below hit the bell notification next to it because it allows for you to get an email every single time that I upload a video similar to this. And like I said, from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single one of you guys that rep and rock with me. I hope to see you in individual tutoring, the Sunday study groups, the one-day course, or anything at any capacity. And if you need anything from me, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. And there are a couple of thoughts that have been going on in my mind because, like I said, I've been going through a lot personally or professionally. So I just want to get some things out and I want to express some things. So if this is what you're kind of looking for, some motivation or some things that have been going through my mind, this is what this is going to look like. So what's been going through my mind is just how difficult life can become when you get to a point in life where you feel like you've done everything that you can, but still things are outside of your control. And what I mean by that is the quote that comes to my mind, because as I'm thinking about things, I'm thinking about words that I can conceptualize to make things make sense. Because as humans, we want things to make as much sense as they possibly can. So what came to me is do not oppress yourself by trying to impress others because you will suppress and depress yourself. And what I was thinking about that for is because again, personally, my mom's cancer is not doing as great as it could have been. She was in remission before, but now she's going through treatments again. A lot of stuff on that goes through my mind of like, man, I'm such a young person. Like, man, I could lose my mom. So I'm always thinking about the things that I could be doing more or things that I haven't done yet or things I want to do or things I want her to see or I want my family to experience. Because if you've been rocking with me a long time, you know I don't come from a place of privilege. I don't come from a place of wealth. I don't come from a place that is a positive place all the time. But just keep in mind that what you think and how you think it is going to determine what you actually conceptualize for yourself. So what I mean by that is a lot of times when people are going through difficult times or they're going through difficult things as they're preparing for the test, they're kind of oppressing themselves. And what I mean by that is they're like almost discriminating or almost dragging themselves down or almost beating themselves up or not letting themselves progress in some way, shape, or form based on their view of themselves or based on where they thought that they would be. And so if you're finding yourself doing that, because that's where I'm at, I'm like, man, I could be doing more, or like, man, I'm not making a big enough impact, or man, what could I do to help my family, or what can I do to help my mom's health? And at the end of the day, there's not anything that I can really do except for be present, except for do everything that I possibly can. And as long as I can look myself in the face, or as long as I can identify that I'm doing everything that I can't do anything more. So therefore, I am not going to, again, continue to try and impress where I thought that I would be or impress the people around me in some way, shape, or form. And what I mean by that is because a lot of times where we come from, if we're successful or if we're the person that is succeeding around us, or if we're coming up with ideas or we're finding some type of way of growth and we continue wanting more, because a lot of times when people are beating up on themselves or they're being negative or they're dragging themselves down, it's because they're comparing themselves to who they were in the past. They're comparing themselves to where they want to go in the future, but they're not conceptualizing where they're at today and how the person that they used to be would be so proud and happy to be where they're at today. So that's what I'm telling you is, like, if you're trying to impress yourself or trying to impress a program or trying to do something that you don't actually want to do, because again, if you're in this position and other people told you that this would be a good idea, or like, man, somebody told me I should get this program, or man, this other person told me I need to be doing this, or this other person told me I need to be doing that, are you doing it for yourself or are you doing it for somebody else? Because if you're doing it for somebody else for the wrong reasons, because you want that person to give you affirmation, you want that person to give you credit, you want that person to do X, Y, and Z, but deep down you know it doesn't work for you, or deep down you know that it's not what you want, you got to stand up and say, I'm no longer going to suppress what I think. I'm no longer going to chase my thoughts away. I'm no longer going to invalidate my feelings. I'm no longer going to invalidate my experience, because I went through the things that I experienced in order to have experience today to allow for myself to get to levels and go to spaces and places that I didn't think that I was going to be in at some capacity. So if you find yourself suppressing your own needs, because I was tutoring a couple people this week and people were like, man, Phil, this other program told me that I need to be looking at first, next, best. This other program told me I need to be looking at these buzzwords. This other program told me I need to be doing this other thing. And I was like, okay, but what do you think? Well, when I have this thought of like, man, I want to go with this answer, but this other program's telling me that I shouldn't go with my answer, I always ask people, like, who's taking the test, you or them? Because at a certain point in time, if you're doing something that you know doesn't work specifically for you, but you're doing it anyway, you're kind of oppressing and kind of suppressing your needs to impress somebody that ultimately doesn't have to bear the consequences of the inaction or the action that you're taking with them for the situation, which then leads you to depress, which means to drag down or to belittle in some way, shape, or form. So again, it's a multi-layer thing, because again, if you're trying to chase who you once were and trying to prove that you're worthy, or trying to prove that something wrong, or trying to get to a level that you've never been to, as somebody that's become successful, or as somebody that has become accomplished by getting a degree, or to getting into a certain college, or getting a certain license, or getting a certain job, you really got to ask yourself, was me getting this job or me getting this degree what I actually wanted to do? Or am I not actually embracing how much that it took in order to get to this position that I'm at right now? Because a lot of us are going to invalidate or belittle what we've been through because we have so much that we want to do in the future that we're not embracing what we've done already. And even though we haven't become successful, or if we're putting it in the context of the exam, you haven't passed the exam, don't look for reasons, or don't look for thoughts, or don't look for people that are going to validate or reinforce something that you know is not true with and for your situation. So that's my push, is if you're going through something negative or going through something tough, don't look for a reason to give up. Look for a reason to identify why you're here and what you can take from your situation at this given moment. Because I always say, it's the people that have been through difficult situations. It's the people that come through adversity. It's the people that have come from places that they never thought that they would get out of. But once they get out of it, they almost like forget where they come from and forget the lessons and blessings that they had or that they've gained along the way. And they're always looking for more things that they could be doing, but they're not embracing the things that they're doing at this given moment. So that's why I'm saying, don't oppress yourself anymore. Don't silence yourself. Don't look for validation from somebody else. Don't look for affirmation from somebody else. When you know deep down you have everything that you got, you just got to show up in order to get to where you want to be. Because in order to get to where you want to go, you have to take a roadmap that works best for you. Because again, a lot of times people will try to do what somebody else did, or what somebody tells them they should be doing, or what this person did, or this person did that, or that person did this. But at the end of the day, if we look at all of our different lives, we all didn't take the same path. We all don't wear the same clothing. We all don't think the same way. We all don't eat the same foods. But at the end of the day, we have to come together and say, what do I need within inside of myself? Because in order to accomplish a goal, or in order to feel some type of fulfillment, we must be doing the things that we want to be doing, but it has to be prescribed with and for our situation. And that doesn't mean people can't come into our situations and supplement what we got. It doesn't mean people can't come in and reinforce what we know. But if somebody's coming in like a wrecking ball like Miley and just like, woo, and taking us outside of what we know to be true, then it's not going to be as helpful for us. It's not going to get us to that next level. And that's why I always tell people, if somebody's sharing something that you don't actually believe, or if you do it in the context and the situation they tell you that you should be doing it in, but once you get outside of that context of the situation, you're not getting the same results, you got to ask yourself, is it me? Or is it what they've been telling me? And oftentimes it's not the person that's executing it. It's the skills and strategies and abilities that they've been provided. And at the end of the day, if you're somebody that's super accomplished, you want to identify with inside of yourself, am I giving it enough time to actually manifest into a skill? Because the difference between somebody trying something and something being successful is that they try something, but don't let something stop it from continuing to go on. Because it's the person that continually is going through something. It's the person that is consistent. It's the person that goes through something and never gives up. That is the person that's successful. It's the person that throws their hands up in defeat. That's like, man, I need to give up, or man, this exam's against me, or man, this person's against me, or man, why me? Why this? Why that? But sometimes we got to embrace it and say, how much can I maximize what I got today? What can I do to make this the best moment that I possibly can? And if this is my last moment on the planet, am I okay with how I've been behaving? Am I okay with who I am right now? Am I okay with how I'm talking to myself? Am I okay with how I'm talking to somebody else? Because if you're somebody that's tough on themselves or has a lot of negative self-talk, you got to put yourself on that moment and say, you know what? Would I talk to somebody I care about this way? Would I behave this way towards somebody that I care about? And if the answer is no, you got to look yourself in the face and say, who am I showing myself to be to other people? Because a lot of times we want to be on the successful point of like, we never should fail. Like, man, I got to be the person that is always successful. I got to be the person that's always succeeding. I got to be the trailblazer. I got to be the person that is always doing everything the correct way the first time. But if somebody that you cared about didn't do it the first time, the second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time, you're going to identify an entire treatment plan, or identify ideas, or identify resources and strategies and techniques in order for them to get to where they want to go. So if you're going into the exam already feeling like you're defeated, or if you're going into the exam and saying, I don't think that I can do this, or if you have resentment inside of your heart, or if you're identifying like, I'm not good enough based on what this person's telling me, or that person's telling me, or that person's telling me, who is they? What power do they have over your control? What situation do they have? What situation are they in? Are they coming from a place of privilege and telling you that you need to do something different? Because I was thinking about something as well. Man, a lot of times we silence ourselves because of what people have told us based on the fact that they're in a position that they can make quick adaptations. So for example, we always hear the phrase like, man, now that you know better, you can do better. And I've said that myself. But again, I'm not somebody that's just going to sit on something and just say, just get it done. Because I was like, man, we oftentimes say like, man, I now know better, I should do better. But that's not giving credit to what we used to do. Because some of the things that we do are habits. Some of the things that we do are protective factors. Some of the things that we do are ways that we've been defending ourselves against situations that we've been in or are currently in. So if you have the information and you reflect on how you want to react, you're already in a better position than if you didn't know something at all. So it's not about, are you doing the right things, but do you know the right things that you could be doing, and how frequent are you making the changes to a different situation? And that's how I've been thinking about it. It's like, man, yes, there's a lot of adversity. Yes, there's a lot of stress. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I wish I could have done in the past. But today is the only day that I can do the things that I can do in order that I can control the things that are inside of my control. Control the controllables. But I can't control things outside of my control. I can't usurp things. I don't have that power. But the power that I have is within inside myself, and I can navigate myself accordingly, and I can do the things that I would be proud of doing if I were not around any longer. And what I mean by that is, if I weren't around any longer, is if I were to fade away, if I were not to be alive, if I were not to be able to connect with other people, would I be okay with how I've treated people up to this point? Would I be okay with how I've been treating myself? Would I be okay with identifying ways that I can improve that are not going to always negatively impact somebody else? Because again, in order for us to grow, you have to have some type of adaptation. Like, notice, I didn't say you had to have some type of pain, because where that pain comes from is going to identify the impact that it's going to have on you. Because if somebody's inflicting pain on you and you're not getting any gain from it, or if they're inflicting pain and you're not growing in any way, of course you're not going to get to that level that you want to be. But if somebody's putting you through a difficult situation and you're experiencing pain because it's something new, or if you're experiencing pain because you don't have the muscle memory within the situation, that's the difference. The difference is, one is going to give you something you can maintain in the future. One is going to destroy you even before you start. So that's where, if you're somebody that's experiencing negative self-talk or negative thoughts or negative vibes or in a negative environment around this exam, you've almost conditioned yourself that's what you deserve. Because the way that you allow for people to treat you is how people believe that they can treat you. Because if you never set up a boundary, and not just setting up a boundary and saying, all right, this is what I don't tolerate, but actually calling it out. So that's when you're going through a situation, you got to say, am I reacting in the way that I told myself I would react? Or am I reacting in a different way? Am I giving up on myself? Am I throwing myself under the bus? Am I doing all these different things? And that's why a lot of times people say, man, Phil, I don't really like the way that you tell us to break down the questions. Or, man, Phil, I don't like that I came to one of your sessions and I got all the questions wrong, because now I'm doubting myself. It's like, okay, well, did you reach out to me because you wanted me to affirm that what you've been doing is correct? Or did you reach out to me because you want me to mold you and build you into the person that you could possibly be to go into the exam and actually have some freedom to have some fluidity in the questions? So that's why you got to ask yourself, one, why am I getting into the situation? Is it to prove something? Is it to solidify something? Or is it to create something that doesn't exist right now? Because as humans, there are three options that we can do. Create something that does not exist, maintain what we already have, aka solidify it, or are we trying to validate what somebody else is trying to give us? Because if it already exists, well, guess what? You're just taking something that somebody else gave you and saying, I'm going to borrow this. But if you're creating something new, and if it's creating something new, you have to give yourself more grace, because if it's new, it's something you have no experience in. And that's okay, because there is beauty within learning something new. But if you're trying to solidify something you already know, you have to have some freedom that if there's something else that can supplement and strengthen what you already have, that you're open to it. But a lot of times, other programs or other people are going to tell you, it's this way or that way. It's a first question, you're going with this answer. It's a next question, you're going with this answer. It's a first or best, it's this way. You see feelings, it's this way. It's CPS, it's this way. You see this other thing, it's this way. But life isn't that way. You would never go into a client and say, you know what, it's this or this. You'd give them fluidity and meet them where they're at. So you got to meet yourself where you're at. You got to look out for yourself. You got to give yourself positive vibes, positive thoughts, positive environment, because you're going to get a positive result. So that is my push. Keep doing the next right thing for yourself, and don't be willing to give up on yourself so easy, because you wouldn't give up on somebody else that you cared about. So don't oppress yourself by trying to impress others, because you're going to suppress and depress yourself. So if you find yourself being silenced, or you find yourself being down or low or negative, ask yourself, where's that coming from? Because again, is it because it's my past self trying to tell myself? Is it my future self trying to tell myself? Or is it something in my environment that's trying to reinforce something that is not resonating with me? And I got to do what I feel is best with and for my situation. So that is my push. Don't give up. Don't let one thought, one situation, one person take you outside of what you know to be true. But also don't let one event, don't let the possibility take away the positives or the environments that you can get yourself in. So again, a lot of times news, or a lot of times thoughts, or a lot of times people can create a moment of where we doubt ourselves, or where we start to think negative, like it's already over. But the only time that something is over is, one, when you give up, or two, when you no longer have a heartbeat in your chest. So as long as you're alive, as long as you can breathe, and as long as you can think, you're going to be in a better position than somebody that does not have the ability to think, breathe, and or operate in their situation. So if they're not operational within their situation, they can't continue striving forward. So that's where, again, my push is to embrace the positives in your life. Embrace who you are. Embrace what you know. Embrace what you don't know. But don't let that prevent you from becoming who you can be. Because a lot of times, if you were to have given up based on you not knowing something, you probably wouldn't be in this position that you're in today. You wouldn't be at the job that you're at. You wouldn't be in school. They wouldn't even let you into the school. They wouldn't let you be in that space and place. But know that you earned it. Whether you don't think that you earned it or not, just know that you earned it. And if you haven't heard it today, you're worthy. You're uniquely gifted and talented, and get anywhere that you want to be. It may not be on the timeline that you want it to be in, but you have to stay in line and stay true to what you know to be true. If you have a goal, keep going, keep grinding. Don't let the board, don't let the ASWB, don't let the NASW, don't let a friend, don't let a parent, don't let a colleague, don't let a supervisor, don't let a job, don't let anybody make you doubt who you are. Because you're the only person that knows who they are. You're the only person that knows what you're capable of. You're the only person that can change something today. So don't let one thought, one situation, one person take you outside of what you know to be true. No longer oppress yourself. No longer try to impress other people. No longer suppress yourself to be accepted by somebody that you don't actually need to be accepted by because you've outgrown them. And also, don't depress yourself. Don't press yourself down. Don't put the pressure on yourself, because when you put unnecessary pressure on yourself, you're going to reach out for unnecessary situations and not get to where you want to go, and you'll blame yourself, not the situation. So there's a lesson and blessing in everything. Don't let anything take you outside of what you know to be true. And I appreciate every single one of you guys that reps and rocks with me. I appreciate every single one of you guys that lets me do the things that I do. I appreciate every single one of you. And if you got to this point in the video, just know that I love and appreciate you. And do me a favor, do the next right thing for yourself. Look out for your family. Look out for yourself. Look out for your friends. But most importantly, make sure you're looking out for them in the way that they want to be looked out for, but also making sure that you're actually looking out for yourself and not giving away too much. Making sure that you're caring for yourself, because when you care for yourself, you're able to be open to care for other people. And from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single one of you guys. Keep building yourself up. Keep doing the next right thing. Keep driving and striving and doing everything that you need to become the best possible version of yourself. And I can't say it enough. I appreciate every single one of you guys. I appreciate every single one of you guys. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Take care. Be safe. You need anything from me, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. From the bottom of my heart, I appreciate every single one of you guys. I love you guys. I hope to see you in the Sunday study groups, the individual tutoring, one-day course, or even if you're spread my name, just know that I appreciate every single one of you guys. I'm getting out of here. The rest of this video is going to be me interacting with people that are beating themselves up, not thinking they can get to that next level, but also building themselves up to become the best possible version of themselves, to go into the exam, to kick it directly in the chest, to get the job done. Again, I love every single one of you guys. Take care. Be safe. I'm seeing you in the next video, and peace out, guys. Are there tips on how to not second guess yourself? Like, I realize we shouldn't, but still find myself doing so. For example, questions that maybe the answers are familiar, but not confident in the terms. Not sure what that, if that makes sense.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah. How's it going? How's it going?
Going. How are you?
I'm doing as well as I can. So, what do you think causes you to second guess yourself?
I think that this has been a life problem. I just second guess myself in every circumstance possible. And I think the issue with me is that I catch myself second guessing and I know I shouldn't, but I still will change my answer. And then obviously, not all the time, but many of the times when I change my answer, I'm like, well, F, because it was my original thought. Particularly with for the second portion of that response, questions that seem the answers are familiar. Like if the term doesn't come immediately to mind, or I can't for some reason apply it to the situation, I find myself more recently choosing an answer of something I've like have no familiarity with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so
Um,
it's like the term doesn't immediately come to me because I'm not a robot or I'm not a computer. So I can't trust my judgment at all and pick an answer that I have no clue in and it ends up being wrong anyway.
Yeah, like for example, like the only thing, so I am a social worker and I provide substance use therapy, right? So I know a lot about that. And so, like, if the question has to do with like family therapy or geriatrics or something, I might have some understanding of like obviously two of the answers out of the four. And then I could see how it may apply to the question, but I'm not so confident. And then I find myself choosing the one that I have no familiarity with because I'm like, oh, this must be it. And it's not it ever.
And I'm going to take it from a weird angle, but it'll make sense by the end of our interaction. Do you know how many questions you can get wrong on the exam and still pass?
I don't. I know that more recently, and this is a whole nother thing, but I'm the I've had friends that have recently taken the exam and they have, one person told me that it was surprisingly, the number or the percentage was surprisingly a hell of a lot more or a hell of a lot lower than I thought. Um, so, in other words, Phil, I'm all my practice tests, the ASWB practice test and everything, I'm passing, but not to the level that I wanted to feel confident going into it.
So what would be the number that you're like, Phil, I'm getting the score. I feel comfortable now. What would that score
I
be?
don't know if there is really a number. Um, I guess like for instance, last week, I took the ASWB, which I was a little. It looked like it was the correct one, but I noticed that, and it might be because it was an application on my phone, and I don't mean to be taking up so much time, but I noticed that I couldn't flag the questions, and typically I could. Like, I can flag the questions when I was doing the practicing on just like 10 questions per day, but not the actual practice exam itself. So that kind of threw me off because there were some that I was obviously teeter-tottering between two answers and I wasn't able to go back. But for this particular one, I got a 75%. And in my mind, I was like, oh shit, if maybe I got an 80, I'd feel way more confident.
Okay. So I think it's your expectation of yourself that may you to have that self-fulfilling prophecy of
For
I
sure.
don't know enough, so I'm going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm going to throw some numbers at you and I'm not a math wizard, so bear with me. But the facts, we have 170 question exam. 20 of them do not count. So that leaves us with 150. So we have 150 questions that are weighted. And the exam scores that I've heard is 96 to 106. So if we take 150 minus 106, what do we get?
Oh, were you asking me? Sorry.
Yeah. 44. So that
Yeah.
would be 44 on the high end, if you will. And the 106 exam is quote unquote the easier version of the exam, but you don't know the version that you get. So keep that in mind. So we have 44, and then we have 150 minus 96, which would be 54. So you can get 44 to 54 wrong on the exam and still walk in and pass.
Mm-hmm.
And if we do this quickly, I don't really know the exact percentages, but the last time that I did it, I believe it was a 65 to a 70%, and you can still pass the exam.
Yeah, and that correlates with or congruent with what the people more recently have been sharing. I don't know. I like if I was to be honest, I feel like I can pass this exam. Um, but it's always been a common thing. I mean, you just hit it on the head that I have these expectations of myself to perform really well. And so I'm trying to manage my anxiety going in because I know that it's at a higher level and that's obviously not going to bode well. Um,
In the way that you solve this, because this is the number one reason why people fail the exam. And this is just based on my experience, so take it for what you will. But the number one reason why people that rep and rock with me fail the exam is they second guess themselves. And it may not be that they don't know it, just like where you're at. You're like, Phil, I know the materials. I feel comfortable with it. I walk into the exam. I kind of have that stutter step and get it wrong. It's not that you don't know it. It's you have this expectation of like, I need to know the answer prior to even seeing the answers. If not, I'm going to get knocked out, and then you end up getting knocked out based on the fact that you pick the answer that you don't even know because it feels comfortable because you can't trust yourself. So the
mhm,
way that you change that is one, remind yourself you're not a computer. It's okay for people to make mistakes and you deserve grace, which means I may have misdone something or did something incorrect, but it's not the end of the world. Like for example, let's say like I got pen on my shirt. I'm not just going to walk up and just punch the wall and like rip the shirt off and say, yup, shirt is garbage. It's okay. Well, it's not something that's convenient, but we can adapt and adjust to this. And that's where you're having this expectation of if I don't get 100% correct, I've gotten zero correct and I'm not worthy and cannot walk in and pass.
yeah, that makes sense.
But to give yourself more credit is our society has programmed us to be that way.
Hmm.
Our society currently is if you're not 100% the best at something, then you shouldn't even try at all. Or if there's resistance in a goal that you have for yourself, just give up and don't even do it. It's not meant for you. Or if you can't take a glamour shot and put it on social media, it didn't happen. But that's not the truth because it's the people that can fail over and over and over and over and over and not give up that typically succeed and get further than the people that have it easy, if you will. Because once that person has it easy and they walk in and meet resistance, they give up and just don't even talk about it anyway. But it's the person that can openly say, yo, I'm not getting the things correct. But typically, people only focus on the snapshot or the successful part of the person. So, for example, somebody may have walked in and it took them 7 times to pass this exam. Some people may just focus on the fact that the person passed their exam in general and be like, well, that must have been easy for them.
Hmm.
But they do not give enough credit for the person that is it's taken them that amount of time because that's a lot of effort, that's a lot of energy, that's a lot of money, that's a lot of everything. But we typically just say, well, they passed anyway, so it must have been easy. But you got to give yourself credit and say, I'm doing everything that I can. And I need to challenge my second guessing by going with the answer that I think it is based on the concept that I know to be true and see if I get it right or wrong. Not throwing your hands up and being like, well, I'm not a robot or I'm not perfect because and this is me not down talking you are not going to walk in the exam and get 100%.
Sure, I get that.
Because if you have that precedent for yourself, when you start getting them incorrect, you're going to have that freak out moment and want to flip your table over and say, I'm out of here. I'm done. It's like the person that is playing Monopoly or a friend that's playing Monopoly, they start losing, they flip the board over and say, well, we didn't finish the game, so I didn't lose.
Hmm.
So that's what you got to convince yourself is I don't need the glamour shot. I don't need all this stuff. And just because people are passing around me and telling me that things are going to be okay, it doesn't change your mindset. The way that you change your mindset is saying, I do not have to be perfect, but I'm perfectly me. And as long as I am me 100%, I will walk in there. So the thing that you have to remind yourself is I do not have to get 100% of the questions correct. I just have to be 100% me during the exam because then I can say I gave everything that I got. And It just simply didn't work out in the way that I wanted to, or it worked out better than I thought I did. And you may be the person that's like, well, I passed, but I didn't pass by X amount. Do not set yourself up to be that person that, regardless of how amazing your situation is, you're striving for more and losing the beautifulness of the way that your situation has been set up.
Yeah, may I add something?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I want to clarify. I don't think I have the expectation of doing excellent, like getting 100%. But but I do have an expectation. Like I want so, and obviously everyone wants this, but I want so desperately to pass. Um, that maybe that's kind of where these high expectations are stemming from. But I can't get, for me personally, I don't know if, and I welcome your feedback and anyone else's in the chat box as well. I don't know if I can get to the point of accepting or going in with the mindset that if I fail, it's okay. That's where my issue is.
Well, let me ask you two questions. What is your view of failing the exam?
Um, I guess like it's two parts. I think for me personally, I'm the last man standing in my department, and I've had two coworkers recently pass that I have a lot of pressure. Not that they're adding pressure to me, right? They're supportive. It's just me. So that, and then knowing like what comes with the territory of passing, and feeling that I'm very much deserving of that.
What would it mean for you to pass? Like, what do you see yourself doing?
I think just advancing in my department, maybe a little bit more self-recognition as well as recognition from others. Um, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that, it comes with a significant pay increase. Not that I'm in this work for that, but that's definitely an added bonus. We'd all be lying if we said it wasn't. So those kind of things.
And what's the worst thing that can happen if you fail?
I guess the worst thing that would happen is I know that I would be very hard on myself. Very, very hard on myself. And I think that that would be the most difficult thing, is to challenge those thoughts. And then obviously just I feel like I've put a lot of time and energy into this. And so feeling defeated in that sense, like why did I do this for nothing?
But would it be nothing?
No. And I know that. It's kind of like the other thing. Like I know these things. This is what I do, challenging my thoughts, but obviously it's a lot harder to do it yourself than if you're providing this to, say, a client.
But what if it is for nothing?
I don't, so tell me what you mean by that.
Because and that's what I mean is, as social workers and with therapists, and we have all this knowledge and we're like, we just need to apply it. It's easier to tell other people to apply it. But if deep down you're telling a client to try this and they don't believe it to be true, you almost have to go with their thought of, what if it is for nothing? And the person may go, just exactly what you did. Like, what do you mean for nothing? There is stuff to gain. And that's not me trying to convince you of anything, but in your mind, it is for nothing. You are going to be behind your peers. You're not going to be making as much money as you want to. And you are missing out on things that you could have potentially secured if you had passed your exam.
Yes.
So those are the things you have to tell yourself is, I would be losing something. But that doesn't mean that you can't gain them in the future, but you have to. It's like almost going through the grief process,
Yeah, okay.
but knowing that you don't have to grieve it yet, and you're almost preparing to grieve it based on the fact that results outside of the exam are dictating your view of your performance during the exam.
Okay. That's helpful.
Because, and this is the thing that really gets me, is a lot of times people will tell you, and I think this is where it kind of contributes and lays hands to itself. Like I said, it would come to full circle because one, society is a huge factor of like, if you're not performing, you shouldn't even share that you're not performing. Or if you say that you're not performing and ask people for feedback, they're like, well, just do more. It's not always the truth because you're doing the most that you can. But the other side of the coin is there are people out there that have passed the exam that tell people if you're not doing this, or if you're not doing that, or if you're not doing this, then you are da 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 da. So it's setting up these standards. So when you're not meeting them, it's like, holy smokes, I'm not meeting these standards, or, oh my God, of course there's deficits in here, but knowing that where you're at is 100% okay, because it's exactly where you need to be to set yourself up to where you're going to go.
Okay.
So it's 100% okay to be like, yo, I'm scared crapless to walk in there, but I'm excited for what I want to do. I'm not seeing what I want to see right now, and I may not see it leading up to the exam, but I still got to show up that day. And you will. And you will do really, really well. And you will likely email me and say, Phil, I killed it. I was way more hard on myself. And I'm glad that we had that interaction. But my push for you is not to just view this on this exam, but view it for the rest of your career, because you're going to do amazing things. It's just you got to embrace the moment when it happens.
All right. I appreciate that, Phil. Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure. And if you need anything, just let me know.
Will do.
I was going to take my test December 8th, but had to reschedule because of work and didn't feel ready anyway. I know it is normal to feel anxious and doubt yourself, but can that hurt your chance of passing? So 100%, yes, it can. And what do I mean by that is, if you don't feel like you can do something, the likelihood of you being able to do it, it's not that high. And a lot of times as social workers, we tell other people, you can do this. It's a hard situation, but you're able to do this. But the biggest thing that you have to remind yourself is there's not a set of questions that can dictate whether you're ready or not ready. And sometimes people will say, well, Phil, the practice exam from ASWB, it's the closest thing that you can get. I didn't do well on it. Or, man, I did really, really well on this. But at the end of the day, the only thing that can dictate whether you pass or fail the exam is the actual exam. So this is what kind of gets me a little frustrated, is there are programs or people's thoughts that will convince them that they're not ready based on a structural system that is not tied to the actual exam. So even when people are working with me, they either will kill the questions or get killed by the questions, but I do not tell them to hang their hat on that. I tell them to develop a process that works specifically for them, that they can utilize while walking into the exam, that feels comfortable for them. But at the end of the day, you could know everything that I know or everything that everyone else knows and still fail the exam based on the fact that the way that the questions resonated with your mind and the process that you brought in might have fell short. So if you walk into the exam and fail, it does not mean that you were not ready. It just means that the questions that you saw that day didn't align with what you thought you would have seen, or have gotten you twisted based on the fact that you might be adding things to questions or missing small details. So if you walk in to the exam and fail, do not base it that you are a failure or your process was a failure and was for nothing. You still gain something, which is the exposure and access mentally to 170 actual ASWB questions. So that's where you got to remind yourself is there is not anything in this world that can dictate whether you pass or fail the exam besides you walking into the exam and resonating with the questions that you feel that day. So when you're feeling anxious or you feel like you can't do something, you're experiencing negative self-talk, you're self-doubting yourself, you're beating yourself down, you're tearing yourself apart, you're telling yourself this may not be what you should be doing. You're not made out for this. You can't do this. You've gotten X amount of previous exams. You shouldn't be sitting for the exam. Your state's telling you like, man, if you fail, you're going to have to redo your supervision hours, or your job's telling you, man, I don't think you can ever pass this exam, or hey, we're going to take your job for you, or we're going to take this opportunity from you, or your friends are passing and you're not passing, or you're viewing the fact that you're less than because you haven't been able to get to the experience, or there's opportunities you had to turn down, or any of these things may be going on in your situation. But you have to remind yourself that you are still exactly where you need to be in order to get slungshot into the opportunities that you do not even know that you are going to be getting access to, based on the fact that you are gifted, unique, and talented enough to get to wherever you want to go. It just may not be on your timeline, and you got to reset yourself. So if you're feeling like, man, I'm not exactly where I want to be, no one ever is where they want to be. And they're always having a vision of wanting more, but we're missing the beauty of the moment right now. And more particularly, especially under stressful situations and circumstances, we tend to be less in our logical mind and rational thought process and more in our emotional minds, and our emotions tend to guide us places that we should not be at, based on the fact that emotions are not based in reality or in the factual land. And it doesn't mean that you should ignore your emotions, but the way that you respond to situations, if you're in a logical or more rational mindset, is going to be different, and you're going to see it based on for what the situation is rather than what it feels like it is. And that's where you have to push yourself and say, I have everything that I need to get into the exam and get the exposure and the experiences that I need to get to where I need to go. And that's the most difficult part for a lot of times, is people tell themselves, I don't have everything that I need. There's a deficit here. This program told me that I can't get here. My previous attempts have told me that I can't get here, but you're destined and determined to get here, and you've been through way harsher things leading up to this moment. So do not let 170 questions stop you from doing all the 170 plus things that you're meant to do in your life. And it's way too often that we let one event, one moment, one situation, one thought, one person, one opportunity to determine everything in our life, because you could get the opportunities that you want to, and it may not feel the things in the way that you thought it would. And you typically are going to say, I da 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 da. You're going to create this rhetoric of how you are not where you're supposed to be. So being able to look at yourself and say, I have everything that I have. I don't need anything else. Less is more. I know what I need to do. And I'm not going to let the past determine my future, because my future is meant specifically for me. I have a unique path, and I got to take it. It may not be where I want to be, but that's just a checkpoint to the next level, to take myself to the next level and get the job done. So if you find yourself doubting yourself walking into this exam, telling yourself, if I'm worried about this exam, it is 100% normal. Check the box and say, I'm exactly where everyone else is prior to taking this exam. And everyone that has passed this exam has experienced the same thing that I have up to this point. The only thing that is different is the questions that they saw and the questions that I will see in the exam. But at the end of the day, it does not determine specifically what I'm destined to do. It dictates what I currently can do, but what I currently am doing is still going to give me experience for when I do get the doors unlocked to get to the next level. I'm going to run, I'm going to sprint, and I am going to destroy as much as I possibly can, because I'm meant to be in that room. It's just I haven't been able to get access to it yet. So you may not be where you want to be right now, but it does not mean that you cannot get there. So that's what I would say to somebody that's like, all of these things aren't where I'm supposed to be. All of these situations that I'm in right now, it's painful, it hurts. I want to get to a different level, and you will, as long as you continue going. The only time that you specifically will fail or your situation will end is where you die or you stop trying. And that is where the situation would die. But at the end of the day, even if you wanted to go back to it, you can resurrect it and get to where you want to go based on the new knowledge and strategies and techniques that you have. Because you feeling not ready right now, if you get a hold of a strategy or a technique that specifically works for you, you got to hold on to it, get to the next level, and you can get there. Would you suggest leaving some time to review questions after finishing the 170? I feel like the last time I only had 30 to 40 minutes and didn't take a break because I had to review the questions. If you find reviewing the questions helpful, but if you find yourself wanting to change all of the answers based on things not in the questions, I would not recommend reviewing it. But of course, that's not a one size fits all. I want to make sure that what you're particularly doing is not be detrimental to your situation. You don't want us to negatively impact your approach based on the fact that if you're somebody that you want to change all your answers, you have to discipline yourself to review them. Because if you're somebody that's like, yep, I'm going to review them all, start changing questions here and there, It's going to be more detrimental than positive for you to be able to do that. What research or research topics and terms would you recommend to study? So that's a tricky one. Based on the fact that every exam is different. But some common ones are the steps of a research study, the different styles of research, data collection, validity, reliability, stuff like that. So those are some things to be mindful of, but it all depends on the version of the exam that you get. Any tips for not missing the test by 3 points for the third time?
Sure.
How's it going? How's it going?
It's going. That's what it's doing. It's going. The first time I took the test was in March of last year. And I reasoned my failing, no matter how I took the test because I promised my mom that I would, and she passed 3 days before the test. And I missed the test by 3 points. I waited 6 months and went to go retake the test. And again, I failed it by 3 points. And I'm getting ready now to register for the test again because they have this new process now since November. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to take this test, one, and fail it by 3 points again. And if I fail it by more than 3 points, that's even worse. But I just want to pass it. And I feel like a lot of it is just from listening tonight to all of what's been said. And I have been on here since before you even started, is that it may be in how I break down the questions, but I'm not really sure. And I never took a break. I actually dozed off a couple of times during the test, both times. And I didn't take breaks. So those are all really good tips that I've heard tonight. But I'm just, this whole 3 point thing, help me. Any suggestions?
So first off, I'm sorry to hear about your mom.
Thank you.
And I think that's something that you have to acknowledge is the first time that you went in, you were under great deals of stress and went through a huge event. So for you to walk into the exam after something like that happening and being so close, it shows something to me. It shows me that when you have a goal in front of you, you're not going to let anything stop you until it's done. But with this exam, it's not, I need to do more. It's, I need to understand and comprehend more. But with you being 3 points away, we're talking about little things here. We're talking about little things. And you just said, Phil, breaking down the questions is a difficulty for me. That is a big part of passing this exam. But I wouldn't say that you don't know how to break down the questions. I think it's just some questions are more difficult than others in being able to wrangle your mind around. But if you're falling asleep and dozing off during the exam, that could be a huge factor, as well as you know the stuff so well that if you were able to stay focused and get through the entire exam, you would probably blow this thing in half.
I hope, because the first time I needed a 99 and I got a 96, and the second time I needed a 98 and I got a 95. So I'm like, I need to pass this freaking test.
So the way not to fail by 3 again is to view this as your first time taking the exam.
How do I do that? They have like, well, I'm gonna do whatever I need to do, because I'm gonna take this test until I pass it. There's no alternative, anything. I'm going to do this. I'm determined. But like you said, I've heard a lot of good tips tonight, like taking the breaks, staying focused, things of that sort. So I'm going to try to apply those. And then I'm also going to try to take this class about, I really feel like maybe something, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I really don't, other than the dozing off part. But I finished, I had time left after the test. So I don't know if it's my concentration. I don't know what was going on. I don't know.
So I don't think anything is wrong.
Well, something's not right.
And I think the thing that is not right is you want to get this done so bad that you bury yourself in approaches and techniques and materials. So that way, by the time you get to the test, you are burnt down and are like, yo, I've done a lot of good things and a lot of the approaches have worked. But if I can walk in and do less and focus on what I need to do more, and what that means is knowing that you do not have to know everything, but knowing enough, which would be what is the process that I'm going to do to break down the questions? What can I do to stay focused? So that is where, and not to just say like just focus, it's what do you need to do to focus? So I fiddle with stuff 100% of the time. I'm constantly moving. I need to be doing something because it allows for me to stay focused. So that is what you have to remind yourself is what are the things that you need to stay focused. So if that's caffeine, drink coffee before the exam, drink whatever you drink for energy prior to the situation, because that is one, going to give you energy, two, going to allow you to stay focused. But if you're super anxious, drinking caffeine may be a negative thing. So that's what I mean is understanding specifically what you need, but knowing that you've done everything right the previous two attempts. It's just this third one, you're like, I feel confident again, but the last times I felt confident and it didn't go so well. So I must tell myself that there must be a gap, but there's not a gap. It's simply executing, doing the same strategies and techniques that you did last time with the small changes of staying focused, being able to trust what you're doing is correct, and being able to connect your answer back to the question is going to be the easiest way to keep yourself from not passing this next time. But there's no guarantee. And what I meant by convincing yourself that this is the first time, because it is, it's the first time that you're taking this exact exam that you'll see this time. So reminding yourself those previous times do not matter. And I have learned things from them, but that's all I really need to learn from them is those lessons. And those two attempts aren't going to impact my ability to be able to pass this third time. So I have to be only focused on the things in front of me rather than the things behind me that I feel are dragging me and pulling me back.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So that's what I mean is you don't lack
It
anything.
does.
It's just being able to mobilize and empower and utilize everything that you currently have.
Okay. So basically dismiss everything that I've done and go back in with a fresh mind.
Exactly. And it's easier said than done because you're like, Phil, I can't get a frontal lobotomy. I have a memory. I have all of these things. But viewing it as a friend tells you like, yo, I tried doing something, it didn't work out. What would you tell them?
I would tell them just focus on what's in front.
You tell them do it again.
Yeah. I
Do it
mean,
again,
that's
but
a,
this time with more.
I'm of the mindset of doing it again. I am. But I was like, what am I doing wrong? So I did all of these other study groups and I mean like in person, um, and stuff like this. So I don't know. I'm trying to do whatever I can. But I feel like the second time I felt like I overstudied. I went in there tired. The first time I was drained, but I promised my mom I was going to do it. So I went because she was like, even if you don't pass it, at least because I have test anxiety. So much so to where in my undergrad, I was given special permission to do all of my tests by essay, no multiple choice. This test is nothing but multiple choice, and there's no alternative for it. So I've gotten over that test anxiety part, and I feel confident. I don't think that that's a big problem. I don't think it is, but it may be. I don't know. I don't think that it is. I know part of it is the focusing because when you can fall asleep during the test, that's a problem.
Yeah, so that's where you may have to challenge yourself to scale back, which is going to be hard. You're somebody that probably is 100% energized, doing 1,000 things, bouncing all around with ferocity out of this world, but slowing yourself down and saying, I need to take a small break from these things and give 100% of myself to this. But that does not mean burying myself. It means giving myself self-care to care about my situation enough to walk into the exam and give it 100%. Because you just told me I've walked in burnt out, I've walked in tired, I've walked in not even in a condition that I should be taking the exam, but I force myself anyway. Imagine what it would look like if you walked in 100% energized and 100% focused on that task at hand.
Yeah, I need to, I've been listening, like I said, I've been listening tonight. I heard a lot of good tips about taking breaks, drinking water, and things of that sort. So I'm definitely going to employ those things. And I am a planner. So planning those breaks for every so many questions and all of that other stuff, because you're right. I am a person that goes 100 all day, every day. I'm very much a multitasker. So I'm going to have to get focused if I'm going to master this.
Bingo. And like I said, just execute it, and I think you're not going to have an issue, because with you being close, not in the best condition, when you're in the best condition, you're just going to blow it out of the water and surprise yourself and say, man, if I was 100% me in these prior attempts, they wouldn't even be, these next subsequent ones wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. Well, that's my goal. And I thank you. I thank you very much for this study group and all of that other stuff. And just listening to everything that everybody has said has really helped me, because I was not focused. I think I was dedicated but not focused, and I really need to be focused and present in the moment, which is sometimes kind of hard for me.
And it's my pleasure to be able to help. And if you need anything in the meantime, just let me know.
Okay. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. My second attempt at this exam is next Saturday. My state has a new law that will be implemented January 1st, 2021, which adds stress. I'm concerned about not studying everything or being knowledgeable of what's on the exam.
I am in the state of North Carolina, and they have a new guideline or law where it says if you do not pass this year, you have to test takers have to get their hours first, and then they're eligible to take the exam. And when I took my first exam, I was under a lot of stress, dealing with a bad breakup, divorce, all that other stuff, and I had I rescheduled my exam about 4 times, and I'm thinking they're going to tell me you can't do that anymore. But I took it anyway, and I failed it by 14 points. And so for me, I'm concerned about studying everything on it, putting my eyes on everything, or I have to write stuff down because that's just me. My concern is studying everything, or the basics, or what to study, what not to study. So that is my concern. And I've followed you for a while, and I appreciate everything that you do for all of us. And I've referred and shared your information to other people as well. So everything is overwhelming to me when it comes to this exam, because it's a lot. It's a lot. So I think that's where I'm stuck at. I made me a study guide when it came to the different topics on the keys. And then I follow you on your YouTube videos and breaking it down. Because I will put in, I always joke about, I'm a person who will put stuff in between the lines is not there. Okay. And I'm like, it's not even there. So you can't put it in there. And that's, you talk about that as well. So just knowing what to study, and plus there are 3 different exams to my understanding, and just going in there just kind of blind. But I'm in a better place now, which I'm happy about. Following you, looking at your videos, and I talk out loud when I have to read out loud, because I remember you saying that. How you read, how you study at home, you do there. And that's what my plan is to read the question out loud and write and break it down. So just what is everything on this test? See, again, and I know that's a loaded question, but just wanting to be able to know that I put my eyes on everything and that may be a goal that's not tangible because it's a lot, but just knowing that I've put my eyes or written something about or read something about everything that's on each of the questions, which, yeah, I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
You're trying to create certainty of uncertain situation.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm not sure where people got this 3 exam thing because I've never heard it. So forgive me if it's true.
Okay.
But from my experience and what I picture this exam to be is that there is a bank of questions that is just poured into it, and that's why each score varies up and down. And why I don't think the 3 exam thing exists. And again, forgive me if it's true, and if you show me a source, I'd be like, all right, I was wrong. But there are some people that need a 98 to pass. There's some people that need a 96. There's some people that need a 99. There's some people that need a 106, 100, 103. And that's why I always tell people and share that there's a range of 96 to 106. So if there was 3 exams, it would not be possible for you to have that, because if you're required to get a 99, I'm required to get a 96, someone's required to get a 106, and someone's required to get a 102, it's kind of fishy to me, and I don't see a pond around. So that's where you have to take that. I always tell people, don't oppress yourself if you don't have to do it, because it's going to cause you to become depressed about the situation. And what I mean by that is, do not add stigma to yourself where you otherwise wouldn't need to. Because if you're telling yourself, I failed before, this isn't my first time, and I've already taken the exam, let's say it's your second time taking the test, you're like, well, I've already seen one version of the test. There's only 2 more to get it. But if I get the same test and fail that again, I'm less than, and I'm going to beat up on myself. And that's what I mean. Don't stigmatize yourself where you don't have to, or don't beat up on yourself or oppress yourself where you don't have to, based on the fact that when you put these rules and expectations on yourself, you're actually causing yourself to overthink. And that is what I mean, is you're trying to create certainty out of uncertainty based on the fact that I could tell you, here's all the topics that you need to know. You study those verbatim. And then when you walk in the exam and see none of them, you want to flip the table or leave and say, I'm out of here. Or you start second guessing yourself and doing exactly what you just said. I'm going to read between the lines because I need to prove to this exam how intelligent I am, because I've failed before, and I need to prove to the board that I know exactly what I'm talking about. So the only way to be able to read everything that you need to know on the exam is to read every single question on that exam as if you knew nothing, and all the details that you need to know are in the exam. You don't have to have a backpack of all these strategies and all these techniques and need to know all this stuff. You just need to be able to read the exam questions that are there on that day, take it for face value, so that way you can face the exam in the best way that you know how, rather than saying, yup, I see the Freudian defense mechanism. This is what all of those mean. And then the question's not asking you in the context to define it, but you've been memorizing and defining things so much that you've now defined your story that if it does not look the way that I need to look, I'm running. I'm not significant enough to be able to create this to be a significant result at the end of it. So that's how you create things to be. But the added pressure of this new law is creating a lot of stress for a lot of people, because North Carolina is not the only one that's doing it. Michigan is doing that as well. That's where I'm from. And to catch everybody up, and a lot of states are going to be like, wow, we've been doing this for years, so welcome to the party. But it's a shock for us, okay? So prior, you used to be able to walk into the exam and take it whenever you did. Right after graduation, you could take it, the clinical exam, and just have a fun time. Now they're like, you cannot do this anymore, and it's creating a lot of chaos, because if you do not have close to the hours that are required to take the exam, you then have to wait longer. So that's where a lot of times people are like, well, what's this new law? Is it going to impact me? Check your state particularly. But when it comes down to it, this is going to be the same exact thing that I tell every single person when it comes to a job ready to fire them, when it comes to them not being able to take it, because there's some states you fail X amount of time, you have to start your supervision over, you have to advocate to the board, you have to write letters, you have to do all of these things. I tell them, do not let the pressures of the situation take away your ability to get into the situation. Way too many times we let the things outside of our control cause us to become immobile and forget the skills and abilities and competencies that we have in our situation. And what I mean by that is, yes, this law change is going to negatively impact a lot of people, but you have to take this experience and take as much experience out of it as you can. So let's have 2 alternative realities. One, you walk into the exam, pass it, the law doesn't impact you in any way, shape, or form. The other side of the coin is you do everything that you thought was right to walk into the exam and you do not pass. You have not lost anything, because you may say, I have to wait X amount of time, but you are going to have muscle memory, which is where you know a strategy and technique and know an activity so well that when you hop into it, you may not be as good as you once were, but you are going to slingshot yourself further. So let's say an example is running. You used to be a really, really good runner. You haven't been running for a while, but once you get back into that activity and strategy, you don't have to teach yourself how to run again. Or let's say you're a motivational interviewist. You haven't been utilizing motivational interviewing. You are going to be further along than somebody that has never practiced it based on the fact that you have that experience and exposure in the situation. So that's how you can reframe yourself of, man, this law could change a lot of things. The only thing that it's going to change is give you more time to prepare and more time to get fired up. So that way, when you get the opportunity to do it again. So when a door closes, a lot of us will just walk away and say, well, I am not going to do it. You can still study throughout that entire time to make sure that you stay sharp in order to get the job done. And that's where a lot of times we do not take the experiences and opportunities that are in front of us because we don't see that fruit that's going to bear. But when you plant a seed into the ground, you may have to water it over time without seeing any result. But once it shoots up and grows. And you're like, wow, everything that I've been doing today has led to everything that I wanted it to, but I was not able to see it based on the fact that I was so close to the situation. So those are two different ways to view the situation. One, do not let the veracity or the pressure of the moment make you crumble under pressure. Because when you're too rigid, if you are too rigid and you are put force, you are going to snap, and you typically snap inward because you're going to say you didn't do everything that you were supposed to do for your situation, rather than saying I did everything that I thought I would. The external things outside of my control didn't go how I wanted to. So I'm not going to take control of the situation by blaming myself, beating myself down, and tearing myself down. And I'm going to trust and have faith in God to take me to where I need to go. That's what you got to say, is whatever you need to do within your situation is going to take you where you need to go. And that's what I mean, is you got to have that faith and trust in your abilities and all the things that have led up to this moment to get there.
Thank you.
It is my pleasure. And if you need anything, just let me know.
I sure will.
Awesome. I did my exam last month and failed by 5 points. Where do I begin studying now? Should I create a study guide and try to stick to it this time? So what do you think would be helpful for you to start studying?
I don't know. I said, like I felt like after the exam, because I too was one of those people where like failing by 14, failing by 10, failing by, no, well, the 20s and stuff that I was feeling at was like in the very, very, very beginning. But as towards the end, I was like, oh, this is better. But this time I've never gotten in the 90s. So I was surprised and shocked, but like, I don't know where to start. So I was just like, oh, I'm going to keep studying. I'm going to take a break. Then I'm going to go back. And the break hasn't ended since last month. And I say that I want to take it again in February, but like, I don't know where to begin. So that's where I'm kind of like, and it could just be me procrastinating again. I'm trying to do definitely better this time around, because I feel like that definitely was the issue last time. And I am kind of glad that I did study a little bit more this time, because there was a question that was on the exam that I remember reading in one of my practice books, and I was like, "Oh, that is a good thing I read that. Now I remember it. If I didn't, read it, then I wouldn't have known what the hell they're talking about." And also, I realized that some of the medications were, I mean, they're using, I don't know if it's the generic name, but the names that I kind of remembered were for anxiety was different than the one that they had on there. I didn't recognize the name. So I know that I probably need to review medications more. I mean, my next exam may not have medication, so I don't know where to start.
Well, let me ask you this. Why do you want to pass this?
I need to pass because there's a lot. I feel like this exam has been holding up my career, and holding up what I really, really want to do long term wise, or even just dabbling in other areas of social work that they won't even look at you if you don't have your license, here in New York for sure, or they give you a year And I've always been scared to take those jobs because it's like after a year they really do like let you go, and I'm just like, okay, then I'm gonna be out of a job. So I really just want to move forward, and I mean I like my job now, but I don't see myself there long term.
Do you feel like you can pass this exam?
I think so. I think.
You don't sound too convincing.
I've been discouraged a lot from this exam, I think. I mean, I don't want to say how many times I failed because I don't want to discourage anyone else, but I failed quite a few times, and every time I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna pass it this time, and then it doesn't happen. Like I remember I took the paper and I was just like, I don't even want to see it. I didn't actually look at my results until like the following day. But I'd overly I don't know, felt that I passed on it. I don't know, maybe it's me just talking down to myself, which is really bad. I should, have a little bit more positive energy, but the exam can be very discouraging, at least for me. So I'm hoping to do better, and by February, hopefully I'll pass in February.
So my biggest recommendation is to kind of forgive yourself for the previous attempts, because it sounds like even you being like, man, I can't even say out loud how many times that I'd taken it, is almost like a stigma around it. You're like, I've taken it X amount of times. It hasn't really happened for me, but I still need to be fired up and motivated to get it done. So that is where you kind of had to start, is one, normalize and invalidating your experience and the amount of times you've taken the exam still only amounts to you taking it for the first time, because those previous exams aren't going to be the same as the one that you see, in addition to shifting the way that you talk about the exam. Because a lot of what you've said is, I hope that it goes right, or want this to go different, in telling yourself it will go different. I have been doing different things. And you said, I used to get it wrong by like 20 questions. Now I'm 5 away. I'm making progress. I'm getting it. And I'm excited and want to almost invest in myself. Not like monetarily invest, but like I'm investing energy because I'm excited to go in there now. But I don't want to get my hopes up and get knocked down. So I'm going to play half in, half out. And that's where the motivation for you is waxing and waning. But if you stay consistent within the motivation, not to say you have to be pumped up and excited 100% of the time, but knowing that you invest in all the energy that you have into you walking into the exam this time is not lost. It's actually leading to you bridging the gap from 5 to passing. That same energy and excitement that it took you to be 20 away to this 5 points has to be consistent and remain for you to bridge the gap from 5 to passing. Does that make sense?
Yes, you're right. You're right. Well, I'm gonna definitely try. I'm taking like some notes because these are very encouraging things and tips. So I'm going to definitely try my best to do them and be consistent. To do and be consistent in shifting my focus.
And reminding yourself you got this. You do. And you have it based on the fact that you're still open and willing to learn, even after you didn't have things go right. It'd be way easy for you to be like, I like my job. I'm okay with it. I'm not going to go into the exam anymore. It's no, I'm so hungry and want this opportunity in my situation to shift that I'm willing to learn and adapt and still change. So it's not that the motivation and excitement that you had when you started has gone away. It's just it's getting harder and harder and harder and harder to have that motivation and excitement because you haven't seen the fruit come out of the tree yet.
Right. Right.
But no, it's coming. It's coming on time and it's never late.
Yes. That's true. I believe that. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. And if you need anything, just let me know.
Thank you.
Last took the exam 10 years ago, failed by 1 point, taking the exam again on 12/29. Any tips?
Yes. So I initially first took the exam while I was in grad school, failed it by 2 points. waited the 90 days, and took it 5 months later, failed by 1 point. So I was just totally discouraged. Now I'm scheduled to take the exam in 2 weeks. I've been studying off and on. I didn't want to overstudy. I think the last time my issue was that I did not know how to break down a question. So I've been watching a lot of your YouTube videos and just really finding out, how to break down a question. I'm super positive and pumped going in this time. I'm giving it all over to God, and I'm praying about it and I'm doing my part about it. But I'm just nervous because it's been 10 years. I haven't tested in 10 years. So that's my kind of sticky point where I'm confident, but then I'm kind of worried about how much the exam has changed really, within those 10 years.
And something that I don't think that you're accounting for is, yes, the exam has likely changed in 10 years, but so have you.
Good. That's good. That's good.
And it'd be different if you're like, Phil, I took 10 years off of the field. I did nothing social work. I stopped having a social worker's heart. But you've never stopped being a social worker. You've just gained the experience and competencies to sharpen yourself up. And you were close 10 years ago. So imagine the abilities and competencies and skills that you've adapted and gained in those 10 years. So you are growing with the exam rather than the exam getting more difficult and you staying the same.
Very, very true. Like, I would say I've definitely matured. I did take a job about a couple of years ago where I have to get my exam, so I think that's part of the motivation as well. So I need to have my license by next July, like July 9th of next year, which I know I'm going to have and I'm passing. So, like, that's neither here nor there, but I'm definitely excited this time. But again, it's just that 10-year gap. But as you stated, the test really hasn't much changed, maybe the question and the content, but as far as the overall test, no.
And that's where you have to remind yourself of, even if it doesn't go well now, you have exposure to it 10 years later and you have other opportunities to get the job going.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Totally agree. Thank
And
you.
something that you have to wrap your head around is, don't fear the unknown, because once it becomes known, it's something that you are aware of. And when you know better, you tend to do better. And that doesn't mean that you should go in willy nilly and say, well, I'm just going to see what it's like. I'm going to come in, I'm going to grab it by the throat, and I'm going to give it my best shot. But if it does not go well, I've not lost anything, because I can take it 90 days later. And now that I was close before and have the exposure to the changes, I'm now going to adapt and make the appropriate changes to kill it.
That's right. Amen. Thank you, Phil. You preaching on this call, Phil. You know that, right? You preaching on this call. I would definitely have a collection plate if we was in church. You really motivate. My husband was listening. He was like, that man is preaching. And mind you, he works for the FDA, so he has no idea about none of this. But he was like, I'm even motivated to take a test and I don't even have to test. So I definitely want to thank you for this. This is awesome.
It's my pleasure to be able to help. And if you need anything, just let me know. Hi, Phil and everyone. I'm from New Jersey. I'm preparing to take the LCSW exam for the 4th time on January 23rd, looking for advice.
Hi, Phil. Yeah, sure. I hope this is clear and everyone can hear me, because usually I have issues with work, but all right, cool. And yes, Phil, you definitely are preaching in your videos and your study sessions. So this is going to be my 4th time. I'm pretty nervous and have anxiety like everybody else. Been trying to, keep the negative thoughts out of the way and stay positive. And this time I'm meeting with a tutor. Last time I didn't do that. I just, read the book, took the study guides, took practice questions, and just focused that way. But now I changed it up, meeting with a tutor like weekly and watching your videos, Phil, and just, trying to stay positive, focused. I took the LSW, passed it first try, it was all good and everything. This time I'm feeling really discouraged and defeated and just trying to just kill the exam and do really well on it.
What do you think you're most afraid of?
Just seeing that fail afterwards. I don't want to see that.
Okay. How much energy are you putting in seeing the passing sign?
I'd say like 50-50 right now.
Okay.
Like
And what makes it 50%?
My computer is getting laggy, but it's like, I don't know, I'm like trying to stay open, like I'm okay if I'm halfway okay if I don't pass, but I'll be upset if I don't pass, but I'll be okay with it, but I really want to pass. I don't know if that makes any sense.
So one of my biggest things, and this isn't just because I'm not the one that's tutoring you, make sure the strategies and techniques you're working on with your tutor actually resonate well with you. And what I mean by that is a lot of times people will mix a lot of styles together. And if you think about back in chemistry class, if you mix too many chemicals together, it's going to explode. And the thing that's going to explode is your confidence in your ability to execute whatever strategy really, really, really works for you. And that's what a lot of times people will do is, Phil, I heard that your videos are really, really great. And not to say that my videos aren't great, not to talk myself up, but they're not great for everybody. So if somebody's working with somebody and their strategy is working for them, stick to that one strategy. But it doesn't mean that you aren't able to dabble into another strategy, but make sure you have a solidified strategy for what you're willing to do in the exam. Because way too many times people are like, all right, well, I'm going to study with Phil. All right, I'm going to rep and rock with this other tutor, or I'm going to start watching this other person's videos. And when it comes down to it, you don't really have a strategy that you're comfortable with. You're just going to kind of run through one strategy, throw that one to the side when it doesn't work, utilize the other strategy, throw it to the side when it doesn't work, and then throw in another one. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense.
So kind of, and that may help raise or lower the 50%, the 50% for failing side if you find that, because when you have comfortability and confidence, your ability to walk into the exam becomes easier and it intensifies.
Yeah, I resonate with that. I believe that. I'm trying to tell myself that, um, and stay focused on that. So, and I appreciate, everything that you're doing here, and everybody's going to do a good job. It's such a frustrating test. So hard.
And I think that's what you have to remind yourself is you're doing everything that you can and you're investing in your situation and getting additional assistance. And that it does not mean that you haven't been doing the right things. It's just the set of questions you got that day weren't right for you.
Thank you. I needed that. Appreciate that.
It's my pleasure to be able to help.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure.